The date is April 7th, 1999, and we're here at Lane Place, the home of the Montgomery County Historical Society, and we're about to do an interview with a veteran of World War II. My name is Bob Wernle, and I'm chairman of the oral history section of the Historical Society, and the fellow who's doing the taping is Mike Hall, the executive director of the Historical Society. Our interviewee today is Loran Rutledge. Loran, why don't you spell your name and...
Okay, my first name spelling is L-O-R-A-N, Loran Rutledge, R-U-T-L-E-D-G-E.
And Loran, were you born here in Montgomery County?
Yes, I was born here in Montgomery County, and I've lived in Montgomery County all my life.
What was your date of birth?
10/31/25. I was born on Halloween, Bob. Can you imagine that? I get a lot of ribbing on that one, too.
And who were your parents, or what?
My parents was Leon and Geneva Rutledge. She was a chauff. She was born and raised in Petersburg. And my father was born and raised here in Montgomery County, Crawford.
Chauff, S-H-O-A-F?
Mm-hmm.
We've still got some of those people around, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Mm-hmm. And where'd you go to school?
I went here at Crawfordsville. I'd like to back up a little bit, if I may. I'd like to pay tribute to my father. My father was born with one arm.
One arm?
One arm. And
I remember him.
All right, right below the elbow. And I want you to know he raised 5 children. Well, I went to high school, graduated. And my father hauled trash for a living. Now, in those days, he would have been eligible for welfare or a trustee's handout, but he absolutely refused to. He had a strong ethic. Now, in high school, I was a little embarrassed of it. Other kids had more affluent, and we didn't have that much. But as I got older, I had nothing but the most respect for him.
I remember your dad. He used to come down into our basement, and back in those days, you had to pay for the collect, of course you do now too, but he used to collect from our house.
Right.
He was a real nice guy.
Yeah, he was up at every morning at 3 o'clock, 6 days a week.
And what you spoke of brothers and sisters? Who were they?
Okay, I have a sister named Bonnie. She's a Goforth. She lives in Lebanon, Indiana. Another sister, Pat Crozier. She lives on 150 South. I have a brother, Bob. He lives in Orlando, Florida. And I have a younger brother named Jerry, which lives here in town.
Lives here in town. He's a fellow that worked for the telephone.
Right.
Yeah.
Both brothers did.
And okay, you went to Crawfordsville High School, and what happened after that?
Well, it's not what happened after it, it's what happened before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was right after I turned 18. Remember Randy Freeman, the principal? He called me to the office, and I said, well, what Randy want? Because I was a little mischievous in those times, just like anybody else, and I knew I was going to go in the world.
Randy Freeman, yeah.
Yeah,
okay. My wife had done.
Yeah, so he called me down there, and he said, Loran, I thought you were in trouble. I was in trouble. He said, Walter Spencer wants to talk to you.
Oh.
And I said, well, Mr. Freeman, who's Walter Spencer? And he said, well, he's a local attorney, and he's chairman of the draft board. I said, oh, okay. So at 4 o'clock, I had an appointment with Mr. Spencer, and I went down there and sat in the office, and he called me in there, and he said, Loran, I want to talk to you. I said, what's this about? He said, you know, I'm chairman of the Selective Service System. I said, no, I had no idea. He said, well, we're getting short of personnel. He said, I'd like for you to enlist through the draft system. I said, Mr. Spencer, I'm just 18 years old, and I'm a senior in high school. And this was possibly in November, because I turned 18 in October.
What year would this have been then?
43.
Okay.
So he said, here's the deal. you sign up now, and then if you have a passing grade in the 6 weeks in your second semester, you get your diploma. I said, well, that's fine, Mr. Spencer, but you put that in writing. So he did put it in writing. So then in February, I went in and second service and went to Fort Bend. From there on into the Army.
Went into the infantry then?
Yes.
They sent you right to the infantry?
Oh yeah, they have short bodies. Darn short.
Well, you remember your induction date?
February 5th.
1944. 44.
Mm-hmm. See, I was 18 in 43 in October, so this has been 44.
Okay. And you went to Fort Benning?
Went to Fort Benning. I was there, I think, 2 weeks, and then I went to Camp Blanding, Florida.
You mean they only gave you 2 weeks at Fort Benning and then shipped you?
Well, yes, that was just what I call it, induction center.
Oh.
You know, you raise your right hand and off you go, you know.
Okay, where'd you go? You were being classified then at Fort Benning.
Yeah, that's why I got my MOS as an infantry.
Okay. And when did where did they send you then?
They sent me to Camp Blanding, Florida, and we were troop train. And I never will forget this. Was going through the hills down there. We got to Camp Blanding, Florida. Oh, it was hot. So everybody got to have a troop train, line up. And I had sunglasses on, and the sun was bright and sandy, and all that. And I wasn't grinning. I was squinting like this. And the sergeant came over and started chewing me out. He said, "Why do you think so funny?" I said, "I didn't think anything was funny." He said, "You take those glasses off now." Then so I had to take them off, and I must have been about 2 or 3 weeks later. He went up to me and asked if he could borrow them. It bothered him too. So anyway, I was there 17 weeks.
And
completed.
You had 7 years. You went the full distance on basic then. Okay, what do you remember about basic?
What I remember about basic, I was
pretty hot, I expect.
Oh, it was hot. I swore when I left Florida, out of that troop train, I'd never go back. Camp Blanding was located approximately 10 miles east of Gainesville. Now, in that area is nothing but lakes.
What?
Lakes.
Oh, the lakes, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, hot. Mosquitoes. You ever see a coral snake? They're about that long and they're just colorful and deadly. Well, everybody was afraid to go out into the woods, and kind of a snake. Of course, we had to keep our pants boxed into the boots, make sure they didn't crawl up our leg. And mosquitoes, when they come in, sound like the World War II bombers coming in, I woke up one morning, went through the mess line, and everybody looked at me and said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Nothing's wrong with me." "Why?" "Well, a mosquito had bitten me, and my face had all puffed out, and nobody really recognized me." So I swore I'd never go back to Camp Blanding. But in the meantime, I was really gung ho. I mean, I wanted to do what I thought was good for the country. I played football and basketball in high school. I was in good physical shape. I had no problems with that. I had no problems adjusting to military life at all.
Yeah. Okay. And do you remember crawling under the barbed wire?
Oh yeah, crawling under the barbed wire and throwing hand grenades. And of course, I was classified as a MOS as a heavy machine gunner. And that's
were you any good in marksmanship?
I really don't know. They gave me some medals. I suppose I was. I didn't pay too much attention to that, but I loved that machine gun after I got adjusted to it because there's a certain way you fire. A lot of people see the movies, pull the trigger back and they fire for 90 seconds. That's not the case. This is a water-cooled 30 caliber machine gun, and you have to have a rhythm to it. You take your finger, and after a while, you can fire a burst of 6, and automatically let up on it. And the reason for that is it doesn't burn the barrel up.
Yeah.
So.
Was it water cooled then?
It was water cooled, but we never used water. Yeah. Because when we got overseas, it would freeze. So we couldn't use water, so that left that out.
So you got, okay. What else do you remember about basic training? Remember any of the fellows that were in basic with you?
Yes, there's Wally Cash from Newmarket I was right next to him.
Uh-huh.
But we separated after the 17 weeks.
Yeah. Now, was that train that you went down to Florida on air conditioned?
Air conditioned? Are you kidding me? Your air conditioning we got a breeze from the west. No, it was hot. It was miserable. Sand, mosquitoes, snakes.
Were you in that? Were you in a Pullman or what? On the train going down?
No,
You
it
were
was a
sitting
coach.
up?
It was a coach.
Okay.
You'd sit all the way, you know, and they fed you on the train.
Yeah.
And it goes through, I mean, if you want to call it that, in today's standards, I don't think it passed the Board of Health, you know. But it was, I didn't mind it, but with the age that I was and everything, so.
Okay. Now, what happened after basic?
Well, after basic.
Oh, well, let's go back. This Cash fella, you say from Newmarket?
Mm-hmm.
Is he still around?
Yes.
You see him?
I saw him when his brother passed away. Harold Cash, you remember, ran for commissioner?
Oh, yeah.
That's his brother.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So he was right next.
But he's still around?
Yes. Now, where he went after basic, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember any other fellows?
No, that's the only one I remember.
Yeah.
The only thing I can remember, another thing about basic, you know, you get out of high school, you're young like that, and you're athletic, or you think you are, you have a heck of an appetite.
Yeah.
So I'd volunteer at KP all the time, and everybody thought I was a little dingy. Well, when they come to inspection on Saturday morning, they saw those oranges and bananas in there in my foot locker. It wasn't so funny then, you know. There's always bumming food off of me. But I was doing the work, and they was trying to get the benefits by it.
Oh, okay. Now, what after basic? What happened?
They called us together and said us for shipping out and was going overseas. So, okay, it was going to Fort Shanks, New York.
Fort Shanks?
Mm-hmm. Or Camp Shanks.
Camp Shanks,
It's
okay.
Camp.
And where is Camp Shanks near?
I couldn't tell you at this point. It's been so long ago. It was close to New York City because it went on pass.
Uh-huh.
But we got there and getting ready to send overseas as replacements.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're not in any particular outfit?
No, we're just unassigned. So I appeared before the board or whatever it is and said, private, I was private, said Private Rutledge, you cannot go overseas, so I'm going to have to ship you back to the States for further infantry training. I said, what do you mean I can't go overseas? They said, well, they passed a law that you had to be 19 years old before you go in combat. I said, oh, so I don't know how long I was at Camp Shanks now, but they sent me to Camp Claiborne, Louisiana.
Ye gods.
So I was there supposed to be 6 weeks. Well, I got in trouble down there. Of course, I'm a veteran now, and I just had 17 weeks basic. I know what's going on. So the morning, they have a roll call, revenue, blow the whistle, everybody thaw out, and they take off in the woods and be gone all day. And I thought, well, something's wrong here. If they didn't call your name in the morning, then you could be gone all day. So I'd go out in the morning, fall in, and then I'd take off to the rec center. And they had this large rec center, USO center, whatever you want to call it. And underneath there, facing open, was benches. So I'd lie on those benches and sleep all day and play basketball. And I mean, I was really living it up. So, you know what that commanding officer had the nerve enough to do? Out in the middle of nowhere, he asked the first sergeant to have roll call. And I was absent. And so I was called to the office, and you ever hear of company punishment? I got company punishment. I had the full field pack on my back, and I had to walk around the company. I don't forget how long. So I thought, now this is crazy. I don't want to do this. So I went to the first sergeant. I said, I want to transfer out of here. Assigned to every place, join the paratroopers. I could just see myself floating down. I was still gun ho. And he said, I got news for you.
You were sure a foolish.
Yeah, I was. And I said, I want to transfer out of this. He said, where do you want to go? I said, I want to go to paratroopers. And he said, oh, let me check it. So he checked it out. He said, well, I'm sorry. He said, you're going to Camp House, Texas. I said, Camp House, Texas? What for? And he said, you're going to join the 103rd Infantry Division. So I left there and joined the 103rd Infantry Division, and we were there. When I got there, they were packing up, getting ready to go overseas. The division, they called it the Cactus Division because it originated as, I think, the Texas National Guard at one time.
Okay.
So when I reported down there, it started strange. I think it was on a Saturday afternoon or something.
They do all this traveling around. How'd you get down there?
Well, from Shanks they sent me the Claiborne, and then from Claiborne they sent me to Texas in a troop train each time, you know.
Yeah.
Because they had the 103rd Infantry Division had to have people to fill up. They had the cadre there. So.
But now you're eligible to go. Had you attained your birthday? So how come they wouldn't let you go before, and now you were going to go overseas?
Well, because, well, we'll get to that later. Okay. So anyway, when I checked in there at the army room at Camp House, Texas, I mean, it was out in the middle of no place, too. All camps were. And I told the company clerk, and I said, where's the captain or the first sergeant? He said, look across the street and you see the captain. Well, I looked across the street over there, and there's a field, and there's about 20 guys lined up. And they was playing football. Now, it wasn't touch football they was playing. They were playing tackle without any pads. And I heard all kinds of curse words. And I saw this little short guy hollering, give me the ball and get those guys out of the way. And I thought, boy, that guy's nuts. When I found out later, he's my company commander. So I asked where's the first sergeant. Said, well, I think he's down there taking a shower. Said, you might go down and turn your hair and stick your head in the window. So I did. I went down there and I said, Sergeant, he said, yeah, I'm over here. Well, it's hot. I mean, that's hot. And he said in a chair like this, no clothes on, cold water coming down the shower, and a case of beer. Right next to it. He said, I don't know what you want, but you better make it short. I'm busy. So that's how I was at Camp House, Texas. And everybody in the outfit had a 3-day pass but me. I mean, in that particular company.
Yeah.
So they told me, said, you know, you're eligible to go to Fort Worth or Dallas, Texas for 3 days. So I said, okay. So as soon as it became known by the other members of the group, the company that I was going, I had all kinds of orders for liquor to bring back. And I said, look, I'll try to, you know. The bottle of whiskey was $3 or $5 in those days, you know. So I brought back some. Well, the captain heard about it. I brought back some. So he was trying to find out where it was. So he threw a surprise inspection where everybody suspected this was going to happen. So he went through there and he couldn't find any whiskey at all. So when we was overseas, he approached me. He said, Private Rutledge, I have a question. I know he brought whiskey back from Dallas or when he was on leave. Where did you hide it? I said, sir, remember when you always enter the building? The first guy on your right was a so-called self-ordained chaplain.
Yeah.
I said, I took that bottle that I had and put it up in the sleeve of his overcoat and pinned it. He said, I wondered where that went. He laughed and I laughed over that one. So.
Okay, now you're going to you're getting us to the point where you're going overseas.
Right.
Tell us about what happened next.
Well, we boarded troop train again, and I went back to Camp Shanks. And I never will forget.
It's something the way they shuttled you around back in those days.
Yeah, boy. I never will forget. I was going up this gangplank to board that ship overseas, and all these older people, like the workers on the dock. You know, we're talking about people in the 40s and 50s. We're talking about the Red Cross workers, you know. They were all solemn. I mean, it's like, well, goodbye, you know. So I'm going to the gangplank, and this guy said, well, goodbye, soldier. I said, goodbye, I'm coming back. Because you know, you have to have a sense of humor. You never survive, and I did. I tried to make I tried to make the most fun out of it I possibly could. Of course, it got me in trouble sometimes too.
Yeah. Sounds to me you've already been in trouble.
I had.
Well, now, what was the name of the ship?
I can't remember that. I really
It was in the New York Harbor, though.
Yeah, oh yeah. We went out and I waved goodbye to the Statue of Liberty and spent 2 weeks, well, 15 days on the high seas, down in the hold, hot, sweating, and we'd come up.
In hammocks?
Yeah, in hammocks. And I'd come up and we'd have to do exercise on the bridge, no, not on the bridge, but on the deck there.
Was it a very big ship?
Yeah, it was. And we went into a convoy. I think that we went over the 103rd and the 100th Infantry Division together. And I think there's something like 15 ships. It was a lot of them. And then one way I looked up and there was a ship burning at sea. And of course all the alarms were going off, you know, and the Navy have these strange signals on their boats. But I call them boats, you know, they don't think like that. And but the convoy was, and they could not break radio silence. So the ship just was out there, we just passed it on. And then one night we almost got rammed from the rear in the convoy with the ship behind us. It was in a storm. And I mean, you can stand on the stern or the bow. See, I know Navy works now too. And that darn thing would go up and you couldn't see anything, you know, and then go down and almost got rammed. But we did.
This ship that was burning, was that one of your troops?
We have no way of knowing to this day, we don't know.
Uh-huh. So it was just burning out
Yeah,
there?
it just burned the sea, so who knows? It might have been one of theirs, it might have been one of ours.
Could you see your escort?
Not very well. Some once in a while when they come inside.
Was it?
I mean, oh, you talk about the destroyers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they'd go by and
Uh-huh.
toot or whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh. Okay, where did you land?
Marseille, France.
Oh, you did? Down, so you went up to the south?
Yeah, we went, we was 15 days at sea, approximately. We could see...
You must have been on a Liberty ship. That's pretty slow. Across the Atlantic.
Well, you take all those ships in convoy, zigzagging.
Yeah, you're probably wrong on that.
Yeah. Of course, we landed on the 15th of October, and we had to march something like 10 miles after we got out of the equipment. And at that time, Marseille was blacked out completely, you know. And it was sort of strange. You walk through we weren't going through the middle of town. We were going through the rough part because that's where the dock areas were. And that's where the buildings were all locked up, not locked up, but shut up. And you could hear the Frenchmen singing and hollering, you know. It made you realize you're there for a purpose.
Yeah. Did you meet any of them, or were they friendly?
Yeah, but they were very friendly. I saw, how do you call them, these Turkish soldiers, you know, they had the tall, whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
You know, and had their swords, you know.
Oh, fezzes, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, tell you what, they were mean looking.
The Turkish?
Yeah, they were Turkish.
Oh,
no, excuse me, I'm thinking Algerians.
I see that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They were Algerians.
They were Algerians.
Okay. I can see why they would be there.
No, they were mean looking.
Yeah. All right, you got into Marseille in the dark.
In the dark. And marched up, I think it was on top of the hill, and then we put a mountain or whatever overlooking the city, and we put a pup tents up there and to get organized and be shipped out to the front. One interesting point there. We landed there on the 15th of October. Now remember, you couldn't go overseas and get combat until you was 19. Well, I'm only 18. So I sat down and wrote my congresswoman letter protesting the fact that here I am, I'm only 18 years old, you send me overseas. And I never did get a reply.
Who was your congressman?
I think it was Cecil Hardin at that time.
Cecil Hardin.
Yeah, I think it was. So, you know, but I just did it for a joke, you know.
Yeah. But there you were, and you were going into combat.
Right.
And what kind of vehicles did you go forward in?
6x6s. And they took us up, and it's hard for me to visualize to this day. We got out of the vehicles and we stood in the rain all night. It's downpour, you know, coming off your helmet down your back, you're just miserable. And we had to cross the Merced River. The Merced River at that time was in a flood area. The Corps of Engineers, they put a pontoon bridge across.
Now, where's the Merced River? You know, some of us don't know what the Merced River. Did you bring a map or
well,
is that north of? Well, we're going to turn it around this way. Well,
okay. It has to be right in here someplace.
Well, now where are you landing on this map?
Oh, we've already landed. This is later on in combat.
Oh, I see.
But our first area contact with combat was crossing that Merced River with a pontoon bridge. And only 2 or 3 people could be on that bridge at a time. Now we're talking sending the whole regiment across, maybe the whole division.
Oh, boy.
You're in full field pack. The bridge is not that wide, and the only thing on the side is your rope and a swelling river below. We did lose 1 man. He panicked or something. All night long, steady stream went over at that bridge. Now, there might have been more bridges upstream or downstream, I don't know. But we were there all night.
Well, they get the vehicles across.
There wasn't any vehicles across. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Oh, where are we on here?
Well, you're about right in here.
Is
Saint Pierre, where we hit combat, right there. That's in France. Saint Pierre, France, and that's the Merced River was through there. Then after we got through there, we were housed in a barn.
Okay.
And then the next day we fell out and we started in combat. When we went into combat...
what about airplanes?
Never saw one.
Never saw any airplanes?
At that time.
What was the first German you saw? The first Italian or whoever they were?
Okay, after we crossed the Merced River and got organized, we were up the hill. And we saw some movement downstairs, down below the...
Saw some what?
Movement.
Okay.
Crouch, Germans, whatever you want to call it. And we started opening up. I was company commander of that matter and devil, so it's giving away our position. Because when you fire a machine gun, smoke goes right straight up. You know, so that was it. No fire back. Well, the next day, all hell broke loose. We was going up a mountain, a hill. Now, I am qualified to be a machine gunner, but at that time, I was a second machine gunner. The second machine gunner carries the barrel. The first machine gunner actually pulls the trigger. He carries the tripod. Now, the reason for that is, when you come in, have to set up that machine gun, you raise that tripod, it's already positioned, on your back like this. And so when you want to get rid of it, you have to move. You raise it up, step aside, it falls down. The second machine gunner puts the gun on the tripod, and puts it, you start pulling the trigger. So anyway, I'm second machine gunner. We're going up this hill, and like I said earlier, it broke loose. We got mortar fire behind us, we were pinned down. The machine gun was set up on the left flank. The first machine gunner got a sniper, got him in the foot. He got a bit evacuated, so then I got promoted to the first machine gunner.
Oh.
And
your first machine gunner got hit in the foot and had to be evacuated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I took his place.
Well, what about the medics? Where were the medics in all this? I assume that when he was evacuated, the medic took him out.
I had no idea.
Oh.
When you get in a firefight like that, you're so concerned with your own safety, and you really don't know what's going around you.
Mm-hmm. Did you, when you went forward like that, were there men all around you, or your fellow infantrymen all about you, or?
No.
You're single file, or how were you?
Well, this book here I gave to the library. This is duplication. I gave the original that was printed in Innsbruck about the 103rd Division. Now listen here, I took off the computer, the internet, or wide world or web. And this is about the Vosges Mountains. Now, the Vosges Mountains is located in southern France.
Vosges, how do you spell that?
V-O-G-E-S. It's a, or V-O-S-G-E-S.
Okay.
That's in southern France. The Vosges Mountains had never been penetrated before, never, by any foreign country whatsoever, let alone in the wintertime. Well, the seventh, what am I thinking about? Corps. No, it's not Corps. What do you call it when you have 4 or 5 divisions in one unit?
7th Division?
No.
Well,
I'll settle for Corps.
okay.
Okay, that's made up of several divisions. And General Patch was in charge of the Corps at that time. And our objective was the Vosges Mountains. So what you do was not paid. It's just like going from here to Wayne-town, column of 2. You take off walking. As soon as you hit somebody starts shooting at you or starts shouting you, then you disperse. And then you go forward best you can, crawl or whatever. And then after you won that skirmish, then you get back in and go again.
Okay.
And that's how we went up these mountains. In particular, this one, I mean, here I'm carrying 90 pounds on my back. I got 45.
What was in that pack?
Oh, it was food, it was sleeping bags, cooking utensils, we had little stoves, little, I don't know what you call them, there's a gasoline stove. And they had that canned heat. Anything that you wanted to carry.
Okay.
And
Extra clothing?
Extra clothing. And another thing too.
The weather was pretty cold, so what kind of clothing did you have on?
Oh boy, was it cold. You got to remember, this is winter. Underneath we had what you call DVDs.
Yeah.
And then you had your ODs on top of that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then about the second months in combat, they gave us some, what they call supposedly water resistance trousers that went over your ODs. So they would take care of the snow. And so
ODs, those are all draft.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. They didn't get any fashion work, you know that.
Yeah. Okay. And what about an overcoat?
We had field jackets. We had sweaters under them. The overcoats were so bumsome we couldn't carry them. They put them in the Jeep. Maybe they'd bring them up. You'd use them for a sleeping blanket or covered up, but no, you couldn't do it. It was just miserable living.
What about your hands? How were they protected?
Well, I'll tell you what. I got frostbite in both feet and both hands.
Oh. But you did have some mittens or something, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we did. But you know, you fire up a machine gun, you can't very well have that mitten on.
Yeah.
Then you had mittens and that barrel got hot. You had another set. You know, you had to lift that barrel of that machine gun up. I'll tell you one thing. After about the second month in combat, we got what they call I think they call them mud boots. It was rubber at the bottom and leather at the top. And inside they had felt liners. Well, they gave you 2 sets of felt liners. You put a set in the foot. And then at the end of the day, you would take those out, put a fresh one in. You had one under your coat for children to dry them out, to keep them warm.
Oh.
And then the next day, you would reverse them.
Reverse them.
And we had a lot of people in the boat there, when the odds were even, it mentions a lot of factors of trenched foot, so forth. So,
well, let's take a little break here. Let's go ahead and start talking about. You begin to see a few Germans.
yes, not because I wanted to,
Yeah.
because they came in sight mostly. One day we'd gone up the mountain all day long, straight up, 8 hours, 90 pounds on your back, tired, 10-minute breaks. So we got to the top, ready to go back down, and it was dark, or beginning to get dark. The captain comes back and said, "There's a town down there there's Germans in it, we have a choice. You can sleep here in this climate, or we can take that town and hopefully get a bed. It was unanimous. We wanted that town.
Oh, okay.
So 2 hours later, we had driven the Germans out, and I forget now, we slept in a barn or something, but it wasn't out in the weather. And then another town.
Oh, no, you rousted them out of there. Oh, how'd you roust them out? How'd you get them? You started shooting at them?
Oh, yeah, did. We machine gun fire and anything we get our hands on. We sent a patrol in, and they came back and tell us, well, they didn't tell me, they told the commander, you know, there's several Germans down there, and we can just take them out. So which we did.
How many of them were there, or what?
That night, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, but did you, and they started retreating, or?
I mean, that was always what they would do. They would fire, and they would fall back.
Uh-huh.
Now, the only time that...
Did any of them surrender?
Oh, yeah, we had a lot of them surrender. One time, I'm not proud of this. We talked about war crimes and so forth, and we had taken 6 German prisoners. And the captain ordered him to take them back to the rear of the POW compound. Well, it's miserable. It really is. It is fit for man or beast. And I'm lying beside this tank. Well, that's the worst place you can lie down because it draws fire as fast as enemy fire in Canada. Well, lost my voice, or lost my train of thought. But they have a tendency to draw fire from the enemy. So, but anyway, I'm lying there, and the sergeant goes by with these 6 prisoners, and he's not going 10 minutes.
He's what?
Not going 10 minutes, and I hear shots. He had killed them in cold blood.
The sergeant?
Yeah. He didn't want to take them back to the compound. He was at the hell with them.
Oh, boy.
Well, he was court-martial. The captain was his defense. And
What happened to the captain?
he was the defense lawyer for the court-martial. And he got him off free. Several not technicalities, but when you're trained to kill or be killed, it's all you've done, it's all you've known for 4 or 5 months. I think you lose sight of what's right and wrong. And he was court-martialed, and he was found not guilty, and he was given a pack of cigarettes, a carton of cigarettes. In those days, that's what they did in the court-martial.
Give him a carton of cigarettes?
Carton of cigarettes.
Well, of course, back, I remember cigarettes were prized possessions back then.
They were.
Were they there?
Yeah.
Well, and were you a smoker?
I started.
Yeah. I guess a lot of them did.
Yeah, you're 18 or 19 years old. Every day you're scared. The only thing that really bothered me in combat, I accept the fact that I could be killed, but I did not want to be buried over there. I wanted to go home.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that bothered me. I didn't want to get blown up, and I just want to come home and be buried.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any? Did you have to have any girlfriend back home at that time?
Not in particular, no.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Tell us about the encounter here when you rousted those guys out of that town. Then what happened next?
Well, I can't remember just exactly how it happened, but I mean day by day. But you remember certain events. And we came up on this town, and the tanks were in town firing, and guys are yelling and so forth. And I'm walking alongside the road or sidewalk, and I started leaning on this fence, film away. And next thing I knew, I had fallen. Well, what had happened is a dead German lying there, and I tripped over his foot. There was a gate, and my hand landed in his face. And sort of a horrible experience. I said, "Hey, Sarge, look at this." He came over and looked at him, and he said, "I'll be darned." I said, "What?" "Well, this German had some gold teeth, and he knocked them out and salvaged them."
This,
He salvaged the gold teeth.
you mean the sergeant did?
Yeah, did to that dead German.
My God.
I know it, I know it. And then with these young German soldiers, SS mountain troops, Hitler's elite, started coming out and surrendering after all this gunfire. And like I said earlier, it's in their 20s, blonde hair, blue eyes, 180 pounds, 190. And they were just as scared as I was.
Mm-hmm.
But we took the town and moved on. So.
Of course. Was there any language problem? Were you able to communicate with these fellows that you captured?
No, I didn't.
Did you have interpreters with you?
Yes, but they were sent back to the river to be interrogated.
Oh.
We didn't see any of that. We went through this one French town, and I was just overwhelmed. I think our whole outfit was. Here in the mountains, the roads are terrible. It's partially populated, and this whole town is turned down. Lined on both sides of the street with American flags and have wine bottles, and we were just more than welcome. They took us into their homes, and they tried to...
Oh, this was France.
This is France. So
What was the name of this town?
I can remember now, because out in the mountains.
Uh-huh. And how were you riding mostly on troop carriers, or were you hiking?
500 miles of walking.
500 miles of walk.
That's what it says right there in the book.
Oh, okay.
500 miles. And now, some of that's not true, because I crawled part of that 500.
And, okay, somewhere along the line, you're going to get shot at.
Yes.
You're going to get hit.
I'm going to get hit. Yes, it was. March the 15th. No, I'll take it back. The night before, we were briefed that there's going to be an all-out offensive. I'm going to back up again before we get into that. We came up onto a town called Sessenheim.
What?
Sessenheim.
Sessenheim.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds German.
It is. And we were one of the first divisions to go to penetrate German soil. And we was also one of the first divisions to get kicked off of German soil.
Uh-huh.
We got kicked back out. But anyway, they called us this town Sessenheim. And it was about 1,000 yards, and we were in this wooded area. And we were getting shelled, and we was always afraid of tree bursts. Well, if you're in a foxhole or slip trench, you get a tree burst, it's the same as, it comes right down at you.
Somebody's up in the...
No, the artillery shell's coming in.
Oh,
They
okay.
explode above you. So the 10th calls together, our squad, we said, I'll need some volunteers to take that town. The 104th Division had already been kicked out of it 3 times. And nobody wanted to volunteer. And one guy looked at me and he said, "Well, Rhett, why don't you volunteer?" He said, "I got family back home." He said, "I want to get home." And I said, "I want to get home to create a family." So what they said, and in that forest, you could lie on your stomach, and like from here to that house across the street, there wasn't even a pebble. You could see the bottom grip of that foundation. That's how flat it was. And we're in this forest, and they said, "Well, what we're going to do, we got 6 tanks. Now the road goes through the forest, right towards town. So now these 6 tanks are going to take off, and when they get out of the forest, they're going to peel off, and we're going to follow." I said, "Okay, we have a choice, your order." So 6 tanks went out, and all 6 tanks got destroyed by German 88s. That's about the most accurate artillery piece there is. So it was our duty. Then they called off the attack, and then we had to help remove the bodies and lie them down in a row, take their dog tags and put them out on top of them, and all our personal belongings, lay them on top of them. That was in, but how Sessenheim ever come out, I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know who took it after we did. But getting back to March the 15th, they called us in and said, tomorrow is the last major offensive of World War II. The whole front is taken off. So, okay,
March 15th, that would have been
1945.
45, okay.
So, I mean, nobody slept that night. We didn't smoke cigarettes, we ate them. We were scared, we were nervous. We didn't know what to expect. So, the next morning finally arrived, and we started in single file. And they laid a smoke screen down. Plus that, there's a fog out there anyway. So the only person you could see was the person in front of you. And I heard an awful noise, and I hit the ground, and a mortar shell got me in the foot.
Uh-huh.
Well, I got up and took my boot off and tried to dress as much as I could. Of course, snow on the ground. I'm wandering around. I lost my sense of direction. I mean, there's all this, you know. I didn't know if I was going to get gunned down or shot or what. I felt like that I was all by myself in this world. And so I don't know what happened, but I finally found an aid station. I did go in the right direction. So,
But your foot was bleeding, was it?
Yeah. And I tried to wrap my hanky around it or something to keep it bleeding. It was nothing disastrous. It was just painful.
Uh-huh.
It was a flesh wound.
Yeah. Okay. And found an aid station, and what happened then?
They sent me to, well, they did. They operated on me right then. They had that new drug, what they call,
Sulfanilamide?
to put you to sleep.
Oh.
I forget what it was. But he started, the surgeon says, I want to start to count to 100 and go backwards. And I just got to 97, it's the last thing I remember. I woke up. Then they transported me to an army hospital in Nancy, France, called the 21st General Hospital. And I was there until sometime in April, but when I was there, Franklin D. Roosevelt, our president, had died, and Ernie Pyle got killed by a sniper in the South Pacific.
Who was?
Ernie Pyle.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Now, that's when I first learned French.
French?
French. I learned my first bit of French. Would you believe that? I'm in the hospital, the war ends, and all these French people, you know, they work in the hospital, you know. They come around hollering, Fini la guerre, Fini la guerre. And I thought, what's Fini la guerre? I said, it's all over. So that's how I learned my French.
Did you, where you went to the hospital and you were discharged from the hospital and sent home, is that right?
No, I joined the replacement center. And this replacement center was like a big school building. And you'd go there, and then they'd send you to your outfit, your original outfit. And so while I was there, I met a guy from the dope. I'm walking through there, and some guy yelled at me. I forget his name. I only saw him once, but he's deceased now. And then I go back, and I joined the 103rd Infantry Division, and they're in Innsbruck, Austria. And they had just liberated not a POW compound, but a concentration camp was in Innsbruck. So they had liberated it.
You what?
They had liberated the concentration camp. So, and then we
Did you see anything of the concentration
No,
camp?
no, I didn't. I saw the camp afterwards after they'd been liberated and taken out.
Which camp was it? You know?
I don't even know that. The only thing I know is it's located in Innsbruck, Austria.
Okay.
And so I was there, for a while, and they called us together and said we're going to be shipped out. They broke up the division then. And they sent me to someplace, I think it was Linz, Austria. And I was assigned to a 4.2 Mortar Chemical Battalion to head for the South Pacific.
Okay.
And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be fun. So while I was there, I thought, well, here's where I get in trouble again. I heard Jim Vaught, which we were going to school together, was in a certain town. So I decided, well, I'll just go and see if I can visit with Jim, the war board. So I went and asked for a sergeant.
So you saw Jim, huh?
Yeah, but I had to go to first sergeant and get a pass.
Okay.
And he said, well,
how'd you know that Jim was there?
through a letter. I really can't remember that. But I knew he was close by, and I don't know if he got a letter from his mother or what. But I went and asked for a sergeant if I could go visit him. I told him he was my brother.
No.
And
Gee, you're all.
I have an imagination, don't I? So he said, well, he said, you can't. He said, how are you going to get there? And I said, hitchhike. He said, it's against Army regulations to hitchhike. And I said, well, I'll find a way if you just give me the pass. He said, okay. He said, here's a 3-day pass. I was going 2 weeks. So I got mad. He was mad at me. So company punishment came back again, you know. So about that time then, we was getting ready, getting orientated, and then I was on permanent KP then. That's where I learned to be a cook. So one of the guys come running out, had stars and stripes, said, look at this, Truman just dropped a bomb. The atom bomb in Hiroshima, and the war's over.
Did you ever dig a foxhole?
Oh, did I? Slit trenches.
In the Osage Mountains?
Yeah, I remember one time up there in those mountains, we took over the 45th Division, took over their area, and they was pulled back for a rest. And had a slit trench built for 2. Now, slit trench is just enough to get your body in.
Slit trenches?
Yeah, and you lie down like this, you know. Well, on the side, it said they're taking this frozen dirt and put it around and put logs on top of it. Was in there.
Logs? Put logs
on top of it.
Where'd you get the logs?
I don't know. They got it. We relieved. We relieved them. And I'm lying there, and I thought, boy, something's strange. Well, what happened? It started melting. That snow and stuff. And water just poured in through that slit trench. So what did we do? We had to get out and sleep on top of the ground. So.
And how did you keep did you have a poncho or something you put down to keep it, the moisture, keep it from getting wet when you're sleeping on top of the ground?
If we had one, yeah. Anything that you could do.
Okay.
Then we had sleeping bags too.
Yeah.
We carried them.
Now, you brought some stuff along.
Yes. This here.
Well, let's, another thing, let's get you home. Well, how'd you get home? What were the circumstances?
There's a point system. I was in Linz, Austria at that time, and you had to have so many points. You were appointed, like you had a Purple Heart, you given a point so many months, you give a point so many months in combat. And say that was awarded in what, September?
Of 45?
Mm-hmm. And I was home in April of 46 when I got discharged.
Where were you discharged?
Camp Atterbury.
And how did you get home? Did you come home by ship again?
Yes. When I left Linz, Austria, they put us on freight trains. These box cars.
Yeah.
Remember? And that's where the 40-8, you know that organization.
Okay.
That's where they got their name, the 40-8, because you put in 8 horses or 40 men.
Yeah.
And we rode the box cars from, I think it was Linz, Austria, to what they call Camp Lucky Strike at Le Havre. They had different names for, like Camp Lucky Strike, Camp Camel, Camp Chesterfield, so forth.
Okay.
And then we loaded up on a ship.
Named after cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. And then we came back to New York.
There was another slow boat?
No, 7 days.
Okay.
It was straight through.
Okay. And where were you? You were discharged from Atterbury.
Mm-hmm.
And you got home. Okay. Why don't you get out your paraphernalia there.
Okay.
And tell us what these things are.
This here is the 103rd Infantry Division, which is on the front of this book.
Right here.
Right here. So this is what that was taken off of.
Okay. That was your...
I'm not going to hurt anybody with this. This here was taken off of a German that didn't want to give it to me. And I guess it's a collector's item now.
Now, was he was a...
Deceased.
Oh, he was...
Deceased.
Okay. He was dead, but...
By all means. Yeah, he was.
That's another way of saying deceased.
Yeah. And this here is the combat infantry badge. If you notice all your West Pointers,
Hold it up.
all your West Pointers.
It's upside down, isn't it?
No, that's right.
Can't see.
Your West Pointers, like a Joint Chiefs of Staff, if you notice, that's one of the prize medals that they like to have. Because that means that they've been in combat.
Could you see that thing through there?
Did you see it okay? And this here is an armband that was taken off of a SS trooper.
Did you see a lot of them with those things
Not
on?
too many. No, but what happened when they started retreating, they didn't.
They didn't want that on.
No. They tried to destroy as much of it as they could. This here is a Bronze Star.
You got that from where?
Sessenheim, in that area around December the 5th, 44.
The Bronze Star, okay.
And then the Purple Heart. Now, if you notice, I wear the Purple Heart medal up here too. Now, the reason I wear that, and I had this Purple Heart for 55 years, and I saw Bob Doe have his on, this little lapel pin.
Yeah.
And I thought that Bob Doe can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
So I started wearing mine. You got it? Mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You're not going to shoot anybody.
No.
All right. Now we've got you home. You landed at New York or somewhere, wherever it was, and were shipped to Atterbury and released there. And what about your career after that?
Well, my career, I'm going to back up just a little bit. After the war ended, and we were in Linz, Austria, we had a basketball team at a tournament, and these gyms over in the schools were real small. Didn't have any bleachers on the side or anything, but we had a sergeant there that was from Hazel, Kentucky, and he graduated from Murray, Kentucky, and he was quite a character. He was an ordained minister, he was a school teacher, he was a coach, and he liked to drink a right smart.
He what?
Liked to drink a light smart.
Oh.
So he said, we had this team, and we did real good in that championship because I played basketball at high school. He said, Red, would you like a scholarship? And I said, well, sure, why? He said, Murray, Kentucky. He said, that's where I graduated. He said, I know all the people.
Murray State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I said, that's a good idea. So I came back and I went up and saw Chief Groves. He was a county service officer then.
Oh yeah, Eric Grossman.
Yeah, Grossman, yeah, okay. Thanks for straightening me out.
Okay.
Your memory's better than mine. And I told him I was going to go to Murray State, so he filled out all the papers and everything. So I went down there and I met this school teacher, and he took me out and introduced me to all the professors and everything, And he said, okay, so I'll be back in September. Well, I said, I'm going to play football. So I went back early, and I got down there, it was like 1st of August, and I went out for football. Well, I tell you what, I wasn't ready for that.
Oh.
Oh man, I mean they had all staters in there, Of course, even though it was small. So after 3 days of college, I packed up and came home.
Oh.
And then I went back to work at Dominick's because I'd worked at Dominick's prior to going into.
Oh, I didn't realize that. You said.
I worked out there at the night shift. Like after you get out of school, they passed a law that a teenager could work.
That was before you went into the service.
Yeah.
You must have been, you were 17 years old?
17 probably. And,
you were a high school student working at Donnelly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you couldn't work like past 9 o'clock of an evening, so you could work 4 to 9 or 5 to 9 after school.
Uh-huh.
So I worked out there until the time I went to service.
Yeah. And you went back and then
Yeah,
you came back and went to Donnelly's and where'd you got married somewhere along the line here?
Yeah, on April the 24th, 1948, I married Juanita Cornwell. She's Sarah Garda.
Now wait a minute, what's her last name?
Cornwell.
C-O-R-N?
W-E-L-L.
Yeah. Okay.
And she's from Cerro, C-E-R-R-O-G-O-R-D-O, Illinois. It's about 20 miles east of Decatur. It's a small
How did you meet her?
at Donnelly's.
Oh, okay. She was working out there.
She was living with her sister in Waynetown. She'd come up here because her sister was pregnant, so she stayed with her and then worked at Donnelly's too.
Uh-huh.
I met her at Donnelly.
Okay, did you, how many children did you have?
One.
Just one. Is she around or?
Yeah, Candy, and she married Bob Hodges, and she works at as a secretary at the high school.
She's still there?
Yeah, she's still there.
Okay. And she married Bob Hodges now.
That's Gene Hodges' son, Gene
Yeah.
and Pearl Hodges.
Yeah, I think Bob was a friend of mine, my son.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Okay. And now, what have you retired from Donnelly somewhere along the line? When did you retire from?
In 1981, I experienced the same thing you did. I had heart bypass.
Oh, okay.
And I was 61 years of age. I had 2 bypasses, and then I had a staph infection on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
And they only gave me a 50, that was working combat, really. They gave me a 50 chance of living. And I survived that. And then, of course, I couldn't go back to work. Then about 2 years later, I had a mild stroke. Which they say that one out of 10 that have bypass surgery had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm like that rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep going and going and going.
Yeah. Did you? All right. You got into a little bit of politics somewhere along the line.
Oh yes, I had some wonderful teachers when I was in high school. Grider and Wells, and the list goes on and on. George Burns.
Yeah.
And they instilled in me a lot of things that I have today of values. And I've only missed one time of voting in my life.
Uh-huh.
And I was in Korea at that time. That's a different story.
In Korea?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to Korea?
That's a long story, Bob. It's a long trip.
You mean you went back into the service in Korea?
Yeah.
Like I did.
Yeah. Were you in Korea too?
No, but I was back in Korea. In the Korean War, I went back into, they called me back in
Oh,
service.
they did?
Yeah.
Well, when I
Were you a private all this time that you were talking about?
no, I got discharged as a corporal.
Uh-huh.
And then, there's 3 things I've always valued, and that was,
Well, now, okay, go ahead with that. Now I will ask you about Korea.
okay, 3 things I've always valued in my life is God, country, and family. It's that simple. And,
Well, you were called back for Korea?
well, I enlisted.
You were enlisted?
Again.
What year?
Well, I don't know. I just have this sense of patriotism. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't know. I'd pick up the papers, and this is in married in 48, and this is in
51, wasn't it?
Yeah, 50.
Yeah, 50.
June of 50. And reading the paper about these young 18-year-old kids getting slaughtered over in Korea. And Jim Vaught came. He said, there's an outfit on Indianapolis being activated. He said, let's go and sign up for it. So I told Juanita, married, I said, Juanita, do you have any objection if I go back in the service? And she said, that's what you want to do, go ahead. Of course, she's always been very supportive of anything I did. So Jim and I went over there and we enlisted in the 424 Field Artillery Battalion. And these are 8-inch howitzers. And I never will forget that. I had to be interviewed by the colonel, Colonel Schaefer. He was with AT&T at the time because it was a reserve outfit. And he says, Rutledge, he said, if you sign up, he said, I'll give you one of two choices. And I said, what's that? He said, if you'll take over the machine gun section, he said, I'll give you a sergeant right on the spot. Now, he said sergeant, staff sergeant.
Yeah.
And they said, if you don't, he said, you'll be a recruit. I said, well, I didn't know they had recruits. I thought they were privates. And he said, this is lower than private.
Oh.
So I put my hand out and I said, sir, I want you to meet recruit Rutledge. So went in and of course I told you, at the end of the war I cooked, in the mess hall and all that. So I think about 4 months later I was a mess sergeant.
Uh-huh. So you went over to Korea?
I was over there 8 months.
Oh, be darned.
Yeah.
Where were you stationed?
Well, it was Sergeant Mobile in artillery. We was north of Seoul, Korea. I think it's about an hour and a half drive by jeep. While I was over there, I saw very little combat, really, being in the artillery. And one thing I want you to know, I'm certainly not a hero, but I was there 8 months, and I was in 2 different positions.
Oh.
So the line was stable at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But a month after we left, the outfit got overrun by the Chinese communists. And they lost something like 80% of the casualties. I was just lucky to be out of there with that.
Yeah, what outfit were you with then in Korea?
The 424 Field Artillery Battalion out of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Uh-huh. And Jim was with you?
Jim was with me. He was first sergeant in B Battery, and I was the mess sergeant in C Battery.
Okay.
So,
Have you followed up on the cooking?
Oh, I still cook.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, I'm cooking for Kiwanis tomorrow.
Oh, what do you mean you're cooking for them? I didn't know. Are you the caterer?
No, I'm not the caterer, but I just...
Aren't you, as a member, or you're a member of Kiwanis?
Yes, Well, the catering service, she's on vacation, and they say skip a meal a week, so they just have a soup, and the money's left over. I mean, not have to pay the caterer, it goes to charity. So I make a potato soup for tomorrow.
Oh, but this period here between World War II and Korea,
Mm-hmm.
you were at Donnelly's.
Right.
Yeah. What were you doing at Donnelly's?
I was at that time I was in I was in the bindery. Then I was transferred to Department A, and then I was transferred back to what they call letterpress plate making.
Uh-huh.
And it was.
And they took you back after you got back from Korea.
Yeah, by federal law they had to, within 90 days.
Yeah.
They had to give you the same position or one comparable to the weight scale.
Yeah. Well, now, but you didn't get shot at when you were in Korea.
No, I saw a lot of things. We lost a young boy out of our company that got in the Jeep and he was going back to Seoul, and he got mixed up on a bridge. It was night, and it turned over and killed him. That was an incident, and then another time, the first time in my life that I hadn't heard of a jet, and I'm standing outside this tent, and I heard all this noise. I look up there, and it's already going by me. In those days, they said it took 6 miles to turn them around when they first came out. Well, these 2 jets went behind this mountain, or hill, or whatever you want to call it. And, you see the smoke coming up, and all that machine gun fire. And pretty soon two of them went down, and only one of them came back up in a big blast. Evidently, he got shot down. But that's in Korea. I can say that. The only thing I can say about Korea again, here again, I always had an affection with winter. I was over in the winter months. Got there in November. Left in June.
It was cold.
It was recorded the coldest day in history in Korea at 51 degrees below Fahrenheit. We couldn't shave of a morning walk outside.
Mm. Okay. Now, right. I asked you about your policy. You were on the city council.
Yeah, I was on the city council. You were city attorney, remember?
Yeah. That's what I recall.
Yeah, Bill Hayes was the.
He was the mayor.
Yes.
And,
that was a fun time.
Yeah. I think that was just one 4-year term or something that you had, wasn't it? Yeah. And what have you been doing since then?
Well, I'm the Montgomery County Veteran Service Officer.
How long have you been on that job?
32 years.
You must have taken over after I
think I did. No, Ferguson of Whitesville.
Who was?
Ferguson.
Ferguson.
He's from Whitesville.
Uh-huh. Whitesville, I don't remember him.
He lived down there.
Yeah, because I was service officer for, I think I was service officer up until the time that I went into the Korean, till I got called back. So, well, it must have been after that. I'm not sure. I think I took over after Eric Grossman.
I think he did too.
Yeah. What do you do on this, on your veteran service officer? Tell us something about your work with that.
Well, any veteran calls me up, and I get all kinds of requests. Some, I've had a little lady call me up, want to know if I could fill out on income taxes. And I said, I have to hire somebody to fill mine out, I get calls on the homeless veterans. I'm deeply involved with that. And
homeless veterans?
Yes, Indianapolis.
Do we have any of them here in Montgomery County?
Now, reflect back a little.
Pardon?
Let's reflect back a little. Remember when the Monon Railroad went through here?
I sure do.
And we had the so-called tramps?
Yeah.
We don't have those anymore because we don't have a railroad. So they go to a place where they get the best handouts possible, and that's usually the inner cities. Now, they do have a few in Lafayette. The DAV puts on two...
The Disabled American Veterans, right?
Mm-hmm. We put on two, Thanksgiving and Christmas, they'll put on a new meal for them and clothe them. The clothing comes out in Montgomery County, but I take over all of it.
Uh-huh.
We take it in an 18-wheeler. They set up a health screening. The DAV's got a grant now for they test their eyes, and if their eyes are bad, they go to the hospital and get eyeglasses. The last report was that about 700 homeless veterans went through the process. I do that. County service officer. I'm on the DAV finance committee. I don't know, just involved in a lot of things, I guess.
I want to go back to your service in the, you spoke of your company commanders. Did you admire any of those fellows, or any particular people that you were especially fond of or thought a lot of?
Yeah, all of them.
Pardon?
All of them.
Did you?
Yeah, and the reason for that is because we were in the same boat.
Uh-huh.
And they were just probably in a higher kill area than we were, because they'd have to take their stripes off their helmets, and try to be one of us because they wouldn't take them out. We had a reunion 25 years later at Flint, Michigan.
Where?
Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
For our company, not the division, just our company. Now, our company is 167 men at that time. And when you went in, you could not get a name tag put on. That was, you had to remember who you're talking to after 25 years. And that was the most sentimental moment I think I ever had in my life. That these guys that I was with, fought with, and I know at one particular time, Juanita was with me, and I had laid my billfold and watch down on the table. I don't know what I was doing. And Juanita said, "Oh, right, you shouldn't leave that there." And I said, "Juanita, after 25 years and being with these guys, what I've been through, and I can't trust them now, that I'm in deep trouble."
Yeah.
And I came back and it was all there.
Yeah.
It hadn't been touched.
Yeah. You went to that reunion, do you ever see them anymore?
We had a reunion here in Crawfordsville last year, and we're having one again this year. That first reunion, I say there was 100 people there. And we had a reunion every year after that, and last year we had about 14.
Oh.
You got to remember, Bob, that the population of World War II veterans at one time was 16 million. We're down to 6 million.
Yeah, they're dying every day.
Let's see. There's 3,000 dying every day, I think it is right now. 30,000 a month.
Yeah. Well, I think we've probably covered everything pretty well.
I think so too.
So we do want to thank you, and what's going to happen on this? We put the original of this tape over in the library, and tape is, of course, property of the Montgomery County Historical Society. So we put we put 2 copies over in the library in the local history section, and they keep one back. They don't let it out, but they have another one that they will lend out to people, so that then, you know, there are some people that have seen all of these. They'll go in there at the library and take these things out, and they've seen every one of these tapes. And I don't know how many of these. How many have we done, Mike? I forget.
Close to 70 some now.
70? Yeah. And and we'll give one to you. Mike will see that you get one, and of your own tape. So I guess that's about it.